Detroit.
Becoming Human.
We're looking at the launch of this pretty... I would say it's a potentially groundbreaking game.
Right.
The May 25th launch date for the new game from Quantic Dream. You might be familiar with Quantic Dream from titles like Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls,
Fahrenheit. Indigo Prophecy.
Indigo Prophecy.
It's Fahrenheit.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, no, you're right. So I have not played Beyond Two Souls, but I know it was very well received. But I did play Heavy Rain, and it's a very unique game experience, and they really, really, really put the player in the driver's seat.
Right. There were so many endings to that game.
Right. And every decision you made had, in some ways, immediate impact.
Right.
And I really liked how, characters can die, and they're not coming back.
Yeah.
And that's just it. That's part of the story that you made that's part of the story is that you didn't do what you needed to do to save that character. So
the game's created by David Cage. Again, the lead behind Quantic Dream's team. And, of course, it's going to take place in Detroit in the near future. Not too far of a distant future. It says near future. But we'll see how near future. I don't know. I think we barely have speaking robots now as it is. But
right.
Nonetheless, free-thinking robots, like, there's only, one that can learn and talk right now. That weird one.
The woman
that they're, trying to discuss whether it should be a citizen or not.
No,
whatever.
It shouldn't. But this is obviously taking, Android AI technology has clearly made leaps and bounds in the near future,
right.
In Detroit's near future. And so this game is basically following 3 androids in the near future.
Right. It kind of follows the beginning of the Android revolution, right? So it's very Deus Ex, in this kind of sense that it's...
iRobot,
Right. There's going to be 3 different androids that you play as,
right.
kind of throughout, at least that we've seen so far, and I'm pretty sure it's just going to be these 3, and the story's all kind of pieced together. We've seen the Kara gameplay demo, or not really gameplay demo, it was more of just the trailer for Kara's story, and she was the one who's...
She's in a home with a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
She's like a caretaker at someone's house, and then the dad turns out to be abusive and very destructive home environment, and the android starts to think for itself, oh, hey, I just want to take care of the daughter, this little girl. That's my only concern is to raise her, and when that starts contradicting, when her directive, which is to take care of this girl, starts to contradict the guy's orders because he's just a bad father,
mm-hmm.
That's where kind of she breaks off and starts to have her own free thought. And then we've also seen a little bit of the rebellion. I don't remember that android's name, but you see a little bit of him running around in the streets, and there's a couple androids that are all coming together to start this little
revolution, yeah.
And then there's the detective that you're playing as this android detective whose main job is to help solve crimes involving androids. And so that's kind of the longest gameplay trailer we've seen has followed that detective.
Right.
And it shows a lot of the the decision-making mechanics, and how it's more of a playable TV show, more of a kind of walk around and find things type of thing, right? One of the old clicking...
Yeah, a little bit telltale-y.
Right.
But, not the same, right? It's
on
way
a much more polished scale.
Not only way more polished, your decisions have a much higher impact. I mean,
right.
In Telltale, it's kind of just telling a story with little, maybe dialogue options change or what have you. But in this game, you're going to see major events change as a result of the decisions that you make with your characters, which has always been the hallmark of Quantic Dream.
Right. I felt like Until Dawn was getting close to that kind of idea.
Yeah. Which I was surprised to find out that wasn't a Quantic Dream. Like, when I first heard about that, I was like, oh, is that the same Heavy Rain guys? And
it wasn't. But they also didn't execute to the same extent. Like, the story still kind of unfolds to a certain central point in the end.
Right.
Now, the decisions you make in Until Dawn affect who lives and dies, and that's it. Like, that's all. The only thing that changes.
The only major thing that changes, but that's still a pretty big thing.
Right.
But you're not going to see, like, you're not going to lose choices in the same way that you do in like in this Detroit game,
right?
Where like entire decisions are just going to go away because you made a previous decision, or entire characters are going to go away. Not, well, I mean, I guess they do go in Until Dawn, but
it doesn't affect the outcome of the story,
right?
And that's really what this comes down to is depending on how you play, will depend how the story unfolds. And that's something that Heavy Rain really did introduce, and this is just going to take that to like the next level.
Right. It's really go ahead, sorry.
I'm excited to see like the directions you'll be able to go, and kind of I'm wondering how the playability may change, right? Because I'm not one to typically play through like a game and then play through it again, but might be cool to see how, like, maybe have a friend come over and be like, "Did you just play through this game?" Like, I'd love to see how you play through it, or maybe like watch a bunch of streamers play it differently
than how you played it. Yeah,
right.
You know, or it might be a game that is intriguing enough that you feel like, you know what, like I really wish I had made a couple decisions differently a little bit earlier, and I wouldn't mind playing through it again. I mean, hopefully it is an intriguing enough story that you're willing to rewatch it, you know, or to replay it.
Right. See, well, I have the issue where like morality in video games becomes difficult for me because I try to separate myself and be like, okay, what would my character do in this instant? Like, and it's something like even with The Witcher, I feel like I was playing that game like I would, not how Geralt would make it through the story. Like, so. I mean, with games like this, I tend to I try not to, but I end up making the same decisions anyways.
Right, like it's hard, especially in my first playthrough with a lot of these like decision-based games. It's hard for me to be like really heartless. Like I always like want to play like the evil bad guy who just fucks everyone up.
Yeah,
no matter who they are. But like you said, that it gets hard to. Sometimes you're just like, I just feel bad, like. Right. Even though it's a stupid game that doesn't matter, it's like
it's hard to separate yourself.
Right. Now,
from your character.
Normally if I do a second or third playthrough, it becomes a lot easier because it's like, well,
yeah,
I just don't care as much anymore. But with your first playthrough, you kind of want to play yourself a little bit, and I mean, I don't blame you. And I think this game is the type of game where playing yourself is kind of the point. I mean, you are supposed to try and make the decisions you feel you would personally make. Of course, there is also the issue of like these games have like time related things. So if you don't do something fast enough, then it can
miss that opportunity.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of where I guess that's where the skill comes into this type of game, is that you have to be really paying attention.
And ready to make a decision quickly.
Right.
Because sometimes making or not making a decision is a decision. And that's something like, even like when I played through Until Dawn, there's like this part where there's two people chained up and you have to like make the decision there's like two people sitting in some chairs and you have to kill one of them. And like he gives you a gun, and if he says like, if you don't, you're going to die. And then I just didn't make a decision. I was like, whatever, I'm not going to sit here and kill my friends. I just kind of like waited until time ran out. And sure enough, like everybody ended up surviving in that instant. It was something that like every other person I know that played that game in that instant killed somebody. And they were all like, wait, what? You didn't shoot anybody? You didn't take that shot? I was like, no.
Well, there has to be a way to beat the game with nobody dying, right? So yeah, okay, yeah, right. But that's ultimately your self-sacrifice. Willing to sacrifice yourself for your friends, yeah.
I was like, I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not gonna pull that trigger. And it worked out for the better in the long run.
Right. Yeah, so it's really, I mean, to get onto some of the other aspects of this game, the graphics look incredible.
Yes.
I mean, really, really great. The gameplay looks pretty fluid, and I'm hoping it's not one of my biggest issue with these types of games, or at least especially with Telltale games, is that there's too much. Like the walking around gets boring. Like when you're just walking around connecting evidence or like finding little things, that can for me gets a little bit can get tedious, because really what I like the most about the games is like it's like watching a TV show where you physically have to be paying attention because things happen. That's what I personally find the most enjoyable. So I'm hoping this game keeps you intrigued the entire time, and it doesn't have these kind of lulls in the story just to shoehorn some sort of like game mechanic, like we want to make sure that the player feels like they're playing. It's like, well, no, I want to feel like I'm playing, but I'd much rather it be through like having to make these split-second decisions, more so than like, oh, I get to walk around and connect evidence.
I think the biggest difference between like a Telltale game and this is that it's the world, right? The world in Telltale games doesn't feel fleshed out at all. Like, you feel like you're in a box.
Right.
Whereas this, like, I mean, you can see watching some of the gameplay demos that, like, even when you're in this apartment building, you can walk up to a window and see all of Detroit outside. And then you feel that presence, that you're kind of, like, within this world. And it's, I don't know, with Telltale games, it feels like, I'm just walking around, like, this building trying to do something.
100% right. I think the Telltale games are very much, here's a very linear, like, very compact story, and we're just going to kind of put you in the lead character's role in it. Whereas the Quantic Dream games are a little bit more like, here's this world we built, and you're just another character. You're just a character in it. You're probably one of the most essential characters, but you're playing your story versus playing somebody else's story.
Right.
With like, a few dialogue options and stuff your way. These games are more your personal story. And I think another thing is, like you said, it's like there's more to discover. There's things to find. There's little things that like flesh the world out.
Even at like the beginning of this trailer, one of the first things that you interact with is a fish on the ground. You can bend down and pick the fish up that fell out of an aquarium and save its life, or just leave it on the ground. Like, small little details like that make the world feel more alive.
Right.
And that's something that you don't get out of a Telltale game. I'm not saying Telltale games are bad. I really enjoy playing them. I feel like the experience is going to be different, though.
I agree. I like Telltale games quite a lot, too, because I think I like what they are. But this game is a $60, fully fleshed out, massive AAA game where, again, the world is really built out and it's the focus. Whereas I think Telltale games are more about telling a tight story. This is more about letting you letting you create. Well, I don't know if that's the right way to say it. It's just really letting you
live in the situation.
Right, live the situation.
I see where you're going.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, I just wanted to kind of express how excited I am for it. And the possibility of DLC for this game, I feel like, is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Very few single-player games do I feel truly compelled to go out and buy the DLC. Like I didn't with The Witcher. I haven't with Horizon yet. But I feel like with something like this, where, okay, so right now we have 3 characters to play through their stories, right?
They could do so many things.
Yeah, they could add 3 more characters over the course of a year, and...
Right, they could add another character that is directly affected by the events that you did in the basic game. Or they could add a whole
prologues or epilogues or different things that still lead into this living world that you kind of help... Create.
Yeah.
Or interact with, I guess.
And I'll leave with this in the sense that what excites me the most about this game, not only is that it looks a lot of fun and it looks really great, is that what they're doing, to me, is pushing the whole industry forward, especially when it comes to single-player games and especially when it comes to decision-making games. I think this is really a game that forces other people to look at and go, okay, they did this and that, and just to take little elements from it. I mean, little things in your big action adventure RPG, you can learn from this game and be like, okay, well, you're not trying to make the same thing, but I can now have like way more fleshed out kind of decision-making processes than I would have had in, Mass Effect or other games of that nature.
Not to say that some other games don't have really great.
No. I'm just saying that this pushes it forward. This is like
this is going to be the top of like the pinnacle of decision making.
Right,
games.
Exactly.